1580 invites you to join us in celebrating the season of giving by being part of the solution. As we enjoy great food, family, warmth, and well wishes in whatever our festive tradition may be, we share the beauty of the season by reaching out to the less fortunate. Please help us to help others with the KBLA Cover the Houseless Cozy Community Coat and Blanket Drive. All you have to do is drop off new or clean, gently used winter coats and blankets in the KBLA lobby during business hours. Now through December 20th, all of the coats and blankets will be donated to unsheltered individuals and families experiencing houselessness. Simply bring your donation to 4434 Crenshaw Boulevard in Los Angeles, near Vernon Avenue, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. weekdays. That's 4434 Crenshaw in historic Leimert Park. During the holidays and every day, let's remember, we keep us safe. We keep us warm. We are the safety net, and together we can cover the unsheltered. Get caught up in the spirit of the season, the spirit of love. Make a difference with your friends at KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah. Therapy, baby. For my soul. Yeah. Just trying to heal, you know? Yeah. Been listening to my thoughts and lately I've been concerned. Feel like my soul on fire, let that motherfucker burn. Ain't nobody gave me shit, I'll wait my motherfucking turn. I had a few hits, even had a few misses. Got clumsy in the kitchen, even broke a few dishes. Street life scarred me, my soul need therapy. I ain't never been the one to complain, that's when I lose.
Of course, we got a little Jeezy bringing us in as we get ready for hour 2 here on RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. You know, Andy has to prime us and set us up right. Was Jeezy being emotional on that track? Was he sharing his feelings? Because, you know, Jeezy is opening up in his conversations. We're going to talk about that later this hour. We are also going to get into Young Miami. We talked about her briefly last hour about having your own and how getting to the bag, your own bag, there's no feeling like it. So we're also going to discuss, because she was asked, you know, how did she bag a Diddy? And I think, though her response, though she was partially joking in her response, I think that it says a lot, and it's a good message and a good reminder. And of course, we're going to get into the whole thing about Jeezy and Nia Long in this conversation, and then being very vulnerable and opening up about past relationships and, you know, where they are now with those type of things. Before we get into all of that, don't know if you remember, about 3 years back, Celine Dion, she was diagnosed with stiff person syndrome. Now, most people, when you hear that, if you don't know that it's a real thing, that sounds like something that would be on a skit. Like, it doesn't sound real, but it's a very serious condition. And of course, it stopped her from touring and performing. And she hadn't been seen out in public in over 3 years. Well, over the weekend, she made her first appearance at an NHL game and even sang a few notes. So shout out to Celine Dion. Hopefully she is getting better and taking care of herself. And we'll hear more from her because, you know, social media has already started reminding people that apparently Celine Dion, when she would get on stage with Black performers, and this is something that Mariah Carey, I guess, has spoken about in her memoir as well, would try and outsing them. So there is a clip that is floating around the interwebs of Beyonce singing down on Miss Celine Dion. And let's be clear, Celine Dion is no slouch in the vocals department. So it was an interesting little back and forth. So check it out on social media. But we are glad that Celine seems to be feeling better. Now, Young Miami. We talked about Young Miami briefly last night because She was brought up when Paul Pierce was shooting his shot at Ruby Rose. Paul Pierce is 46, Ruby Rose is about 25, 26. And people were calling him all types of inappropriates and wrong, especially some women. And Lil Duval mentioned, hey, you guys don't feel that way when it's about Young Miami and Diddy. And of course, some people were like, no, I've always felt that way, whatever. My positioning is if people are adults, you got to let adults be adults. It may not work for you, and that is understandable, but you got to let adults adult, right? So having said that, in an interview with Billboard, Caresha, Young Miami, she was asked, how did she bag a billionaire? And I thought her response was important and interesting. So,
on which yacht? I'm single, okay? How do I get me a Diddy? Like, y'all was talking like about intimacy. I'm like, I want that for me. So what's some advice you can give me about bagging me a Diddy type?
I don't know, because people say that I wasn't Diddy type, but clearly I am. So I think that you just gotta be yourself, because people, they gravitate to what's real. Like, so many people try to be something they not. Like, you just gotta be yourself. I'm just myself, I'm just that and that's how you just beg.
Period. Are y'all double dating? Is there a Uzi, Diddy, Caresha, JT dinner ever?
I don't even think that, like, we think like that. Like, y'all wanna go on a double date? Like, no. But no, not saying that it won't happen. It probably will happen now because you said it, but no.
Manifesting. All right, y'all, thank you.
So I think it's important, Caresha pointed out that, people did not think that she was Diddy's type. And, she was just herself. So that's an important message to remember. I also think, and this is separate, and this has nothing to do with Caresha as a woman, a person. She's beautiful. She seems like a fun personality. They seem to have really come together and bonded. But I also am not going to forget that Diddy seemed to be doing a little clout chasing around that time period. Like he was reaching for the youth and trying to see what woman he could team up with to get him back into that flowing rotation. I'm not saying, so here's the thing. Sometimes I think when we mention things like that, or that there is some added bonus to the situation, people automatically think that it takes away from the overall relationship or situation. But there are assets and liabilities to any situation. There are going to be things that are a plus for you or a plus for someone else that they might search for that might not matter or be as important to other people. So in saying that, that's not me hating. That's not me taking away from anything. I do think that they have a good time. But I also think that Diddy was purposely, at that time period, looking for something different than maybe he had in the past. I'm not going to say he was going through a midlife crisis. I don't think we even use that term anymore. But I do think that he was looking to feel a different way than maybe he had felt for the past decade before. And that happens to people, you go through those things and those moments. When we come forward, more trending topics and headlines, we're going to get into this Jeezy and Nia Long interview. I mean, first of all, just why? Who said Jeezy and Nia should link up and have a conversation? We'll get into all of that and more on the other side. You were locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580.
RSVP with Jill Munroe is your go-to show for staying in the know. More engaging conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580. Environmental justice, pollution, and climate. In Los Angeles and across America, people of color are suffering and dying from disproportionate health impacts on a planet that has less than 10 years to prevent irreversible damage. Heat illnesses, respiratory illnesses, water-related illnesses, food system impacts, insect-related diseases, Black maternal health, and mental health effects. As the impacts of climate change mount, millions of vulnerable people, our people, are going to bear the brunt of these extreme environmental events, which will likely lead to forced displacement, loss of cultural identity, and other related risks. These realities are as real as rain. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 for more details about the most progressive multimedia and live events campaign any Black media outlet has ever undertaken to combat the climate catastrophe. Experts, events, empowerment. It's all on the way from unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk 1580. We don't black down. We level up.
Level up, 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 level up.
Discover, this is Danny.
Hi, it's Jen Coolidge. I just want to thank you for making me feel so special. I earned cash back on debit for my dinner party groceries.
That's great. But with Discover Cashback Debit, we give everyone cash back on everyday purchases. Anything else I can help you with?
Are you hungry? 'Cause everyone left after the asparagus sorbet.
Introducing Discover Cashback Debit, a checking account with cash back. It pays to Discover. Eligibility and terms at discover.com/cashback debit. Discover Bank, member FDIC.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminding you that we keep us safe. Pro Football Hall of Famer and urban peace pioneer Jim Brown believed in just that. So he founded the Amera I Can Foundation for Social Change in 1988, focusing on at-risk and high-risk youth in underserved schools and juvenile detention facilities, as well as adult incarceration and reentry initiatives. The core of the Amera I Can program is its 15-chapter life skills curriculum. Mastery of these skills allows individuals to meet their academic potential, conform their behavior to acceptable societal standards, and improve the quality of their lives by equipping them with what they need to confidently and successfully contribute to society. Today, the foundation is led by its president, Monique Brown, who has been actively involved in the organization for more than 25 years. The Amera I Can Foundation continues its work in memory of its founder, actor, philanthropist, and NFL legend Jim Brown. To get involved or make a donation, please visit AmeriICanCommunity.partners. That's AmeriICanCommunity.partners. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Keeping you informed, entertained, and always ahead of the curve. This is RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
You were locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. So listen, Jeezy, he just dropped a new album. And I guess he's kind of on a promo tour. The name of the album is I Might Forgive, But I Don't Forget. Double album. We know Jeezy is also going through a divorce, which he filed for, surprisingly to many people, after 2 years. And we know that Nia is also going through a very public breakup from her ex-fiance, Ime Udoka, who's the current coach of the Houston Rockets. While he was with the Boston Celtics, he was stepping out on his relationship with a coworker. And there was a lot of controversy because the coworker's name wasn't released. There were accusations that Amy was actually pressuring her, and it just was a really, really heightened situation. And so throughout, once it was sort of the dust was settled with it after Amy was suspended for the season and so forth, Nia began speaking out. Subtly at first, more vocally as time went on, saying that she didn't appreciate how the Boston Celtics did not protect her or her family with the way that they released the information, that it was unfair that the woman was allowed to, kind of escape accountability from Nia's perspective in the situation. She did not feel that the woman was a victim as being presented, that it's a little more than that. So she and Jeezy got together to have a talk about vulnerability, heartbreak, relationships. And some are saying, that Amy might have to shoot the fade with Jeezy because he was a little dirty Mac. Yeah. Listen, we've seen a lot of that over the past couple of days, and it takes me back to the conversation that we had last night when Gilbert Arenas was saying that, 70% or some made-up stat of women that date NBA players will end up dating one of their teammates. And here's the thing, nothing about how the men target some of the same women. They're looking for the same things or whatever. So it wouldn't be a far stretch of the imagination that Jeezy might be like, Nia Long is a beautiful woman, age appropriate. And actually, she's probably older than Jeezy. I'm sure of it. Yeah. And some people are also a little upset with Jeezy because they feel that he is using black women in their image to rehab himself after he went and married outside. Those are very delicate and sensitive conversations, and people have a lot of emotions as related to it. But the conversation between Nia and Jeezy brought out some interesting things. One, Jeezy shared his thoughts on his pending divorce. So let's hear what he had to say about that.
We haven't talked about is your current marriage and your current situation. And I think it would be unfair to you to not address that in this space where we're being really open and honest. And it doesn't have to be the details of anything.
Right.
But if you've done all of this work and you've given yourself that grace and you've given yourself that space to grow and you've given yourself permission to love self, right? Then what happens when a man gets to the point where they're just like, okay, I'm filing for divorce?
Integrity intact. I could never say anything that would not honor somebody.
Absolutely.
But I can tell you that this has not been a easy journey.
Right.
I can tell you that I'm saddened. I can tell you that I'm disappointed. I can tell you that I'm uneasy, right? But again, like, God has put me in a different path, and that path is going to entail for me to take care of myself and to love myself and to be in the best situation that I can thrive as someone who's been through all the things that I've been through.
It's kind of something you can't explain.
Yeah, you can't. The real thing is, like, I don't like to fail in anything.
Me either.
And
I don't want to lose. I don't want to fail.
I don't want to fail, especially when I know what
you've poured in.
Right. And, as I sit across from you, like, I can only be responsible for myself.
True.
And I can only do what I can do, right? And I can't expect someone else to do what I'm doing.
But did you go to therapy with her?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Right.
So you actually addressed it, tried to work through it, tried to do the work, and it just was like not happening. Well, then you tried.
Yeah.
I don't know about for you, but for me, it is a switch.
Right.
And when that switch
is
goes
that what
off,
that was your switch?
go on. Yeah.
Right.
But I had to realize for myself that anything that happened in the last, year and a half of my life, that shouldn't have nothing to do with me.
And that's my
That
point
didn't
of
have
case.
anything to do with me. I was not embarrassed.
Right.
The way that Black people stood up for me and the way that Black women were like, oh no, you don't do that to her. I was shocked because I didn't realize that what I had done or what I've done in my career had so much impact.
So there was a lot that was said throughout that conversation. Let's start with Jeezy. I feel like that was a whole lot of nothing. I don't feel like he really explained anything. I understand putting yourself first, and that's usually what we tell people to do after a breakup and, recalibrate themselves and so forth. But I don't feel that he gave any insight. I don't think that we learned anything, and I don't think that there was anything revealing in that statement. And again, let me be clear, I recognize he doesn't owe us an in-depth explanation. However, if you're going to say that you're being vulnerable, an example, I don't know. I just felt like that was a lot of word salad. Perhaps it's just me. With Nia, I'm kind of shocked that she is surprised that black women would go up for her. She has been a staple as far as film for the past 30 years. I know that there have been whispers by some about her maybe not being the kindest behind the scenes. You take all of that with a grain of salt, might have just been the wrong day. But I feel like Nia is generally someone that people love. And generally, when you hear about a woman being cheated on, most people are automatically, even if they don't know the circumstance, going to jump on a woman's side, especially if that woman is attractive, especially if that woman is beloved in our community. So I'm not really sure why Nia was so shocked that that happened. But what was interesting in this conversation is she started discussing cheating, and she said that she feels like, a lot of times the end of a relationship, even if there is infidelity, it's not really about that. The breakdown of the relationship happened at some other point in time, and that the woman, the outside person, is really just there to cater or coat to that individual's ego. Of course, we're going to assume that she's talking about Amy in her situation. And she said, and make that person feel like a king and just be there, at any given time. But it's not really about that. So Jeezy followed up with, well, I think real men don't cheat. They don't do that. They stand behind that, which obviously is a noble thing to say, a solid thing to say. But do we believe that? Do we believe that if a man has made a mistake within his relationship, it doesn't mean that he is a solid man? Like, is one mistake an indicator of your entire character and everything that you have done prior to? And I'm not specifically talking about the situations within Nia and Imy's relationship. I just mean in general, because there's a lot of great men that have been or allegedly been cheaters. I mean, we talk about Martin Luther King Jr., and there are rumors that he may have stepped out on his marriage, or at the very least been a bit flirtatious. But no one would ever say that Dr. King wasn't someone of great character. You think of a president like John F. Kennedy Jr. I mean, he and his brothers, so it appears, were passing Marilyn Monroe back and forth and lots of other women, but he is considered one of the greatest presidents of our country. So how do we balance a mistake? I'm not talking about the habitual cheaters, or maybe I am. I don't know. I guess it depends on the circumstance. But is that a determining factor? We know it's part of who you are and your character, but is one instance of it enough to take away everything else that has happened? Nia and Jeezy also talked about parenting, and Jeezy admitted that he felt as though he failed his son with the way that he raised him. And I think in that, because, Jeezy is what, in his 40s now? So I think maybe he's alluding to showing his son or keeping him up on game as far as the street life. There's certain rules that if you come up in those type of neighborhoods or in, those type of environments where certain things are prevalent, you learn a different set of rules along with what most consider standard operating procedure. So Jeezy believes, and looking back on that now, that he may have failed his son by giving him some of those, I guess, ideals or thoughts as far as growing up. So let's hear what he had to say about that.
I love my son. I think he's an amazing guy. I think he's very charismatic. I think he got all the things, but I think that the way I've tried to love him over the years was totally wrong, not his love language for him. And I think the things that I instilled in him as a youngster, you know, that doesn't serve him now.
You know, I had a really public breakup recently. It was a wake-up call for me in the sense of like, okay, you're going to do this on your own and you're going to be fine.
Right.
And you're not going to worry about what anyone thinks and has to say, because the relationship was rocky for a very long time. So, because I don't believe another person can break anyone up.
Right.
Like, I don't buy that. Right? To your point with your son, I think my older son saw me trying to keep the family together, but I had to come to a place where loving myself was bigger and more important than saving anybody.
So, you know, there's a lot of things there. As parents, you do have to balance self-preservation, how you are still developing as a person, and also with your child and what you're exposing them to and where you hope they will grow and develop as an individual. But, I mean, if you aren't in the right mind space, obviously you may not necessarily be able to pass down good judgment, good rules, good thought processes to your children. I thought it was interesting that Nia mentioned her older son. Obviously, he picked up on whatever was out of sorts with she and Amy, but she wanted to keep it together for the sake of family and a younger child. And we hear that a lot. I mean, obviously that had something to do with Will and Jada not just splitting at that 2016 mark because they wanted things to look a certain way as far as image. So is that okay? Or do we think that if you're feeling uncomfortable and you felt that way for a while, a clean break is the best way forward? Because you look at what fast forward 6-7 years now with Will and Jada, and supposedly they've come back together. Is it just the element of not letting the public in on it? I think that is a big thing too. I know it's hard in the social media era to maybe figure out ways, if you are in a place in a relationship where you need a little break, a little space, but how do you do it and not have the public all in your mix? Maybe not share everything so that if you don't share something, it doesn't look as suspicious. I don't know. Nia, to my knowledge, I haven't finished the entire interview, but I did see a great deal of it. Didn't really get into what the problems were before the initial breakup happened, but it was an interesting conversation. She also got Jeezy to open up about a couple of other things, and we'll get into that on the other side. You are locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. News and sports is up next.
So you're familiar, main man, and he wanted all, none for my children. If 1-5 wasn't my dog, I would've touched him. When that went down with Gibbs, I couldn't trust him. Invested my hard-earned money, tied up my bread, but he gon' try to tell you I'm flawed. That's in his head. It's happening just the way that I said it. Good on your own. If I'm honest, nothing gangster about you. Leave us alone, yeah. And everybody wondering what happened with me and Coach. Same shit that happened between Tommy and Ghost. Yeah, the checks coming in, but the trust ain't there. I would say it's all him, but that wouldn't be fair. I was fresh up out the streets trying to fight my own demons. Knew something wasn't right, guess I had my own reasons.
Trending topics and the hottest happenings. You're listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. Dozens of protesters crowded the Decatur City Council meeting to demand a change in leadership. This comes as many expressed frustrations about the lack of transparency in the fatal officer-involved shooting of Stephen Perkins last month. Decatur Mayor Tab Bowling was noticeably absent from the meeting for the second consecutive week. Civil rights groups led by the North Alabama chapter of the NAACP have called for his resignation. Officials at financially troubled Birmingham Southern College are reporting a recent influx of private donations, raising enough funds to keep the school open through the spring semester of 2024. This comes as Republican Congressman Robert Adderholt announced that he's joining forces with Black Democratic Representative Terry Sewell to try and drum up more support for BSC. In a statement released, both lawmakers said keeping the school open and helping it to achieve financial stability is what's best for Alabama. That's the latest. I'm Amber Payton on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network.
Experience the spirit, songs, and story of Christmas. Join California Baptist University December 2nd and 3rd for CBU Christmas with vocal artist Anthony Evans. More at cbuchristmas.com.
KBLA Talk 1580 invites you to join us in celebrating the season of giving by being part of the solution. As we enjoy great food, family, warmth, and well wishes in whatever our festive tradition may be, we share the beauty of the season by reaching out to the less fortunate. Please help us to help others with the KBLA Cover the Houseless Cozy Community Coat and Blanket Drive. All you have to do is drop off new or clean, gently used winter coats and blankets in the KBLA lobby during business hours. Now through December 20th, all of the coats and blankets will be donated to unsheltered individuals and families experiencing houselessness. Simply bring your donation to 4434 Crenshaw Boulevard in Los Angeles, near Vernon Avenue, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. weekdays. That's 4434 Crenshaw in historic Leimert Park. During the holidays and every day, let's remember, we keep us safe. We keep us warm. We are the safety net, and together we can cover the unsheltered. Get caught up in the spirit of the season, the spirit of love. Make a difference with your friends at KBLA Talk 1580.
Mom's early Alzheimer's diagnosis was hard to take.
And when I left the oven on, we decided together that it was time to see a doctor and make a plan.
Early detection gave us more time to seek out information and support as a family.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together. For more information, visit alz.org/time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
At Susan G. Komen, we believe that ending breast cancer needs all of us working together. Because if you've just been diagnosed and don't know where to turn, we've got you. If you can't afford the treatment you need, we've got you. And if you are driven to honor the loved one you've just lost, we have a place for you here. Because of you, we're supporting those who need help today while tirelessly searching for tomorrow's cures. Visit Komen.org and be a part of our Susan G. Komen community today.
Hey, Dad, how do airplanes fly? What's in this box? Is this tree good for climbing? How are babies made? What does this thing do?
Kids are curious about everything, including guns. Talking to them about gun safety in your home is a good first step, but you can do more. Always keep your guns locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, Maisha Cairo here, KBLA, live at Chase Bank on Crenshaw and Vernon for the In This Together tour with female business owners, a day of empowerment, community panels, and best of all, tips on building business from marketing to capital. I was able to speak with Kate Luzio, former banking executive and now owner of Luminary, who partnered with Chase for this tour. She makes it her business to build community for business owners.
Yes, so I was a banker for 20 years before I decided to become an entrepreneur. 7 of those years were actually at JP Morgan Chase. One of the biggest things that I had going into my entrepreneurial journey was a big background in banking.
So what advice are you giving business owners looking for financial backing today?
So Chase brings in so much knowledge and the opportunity to understand what financial tools are out there for business owners to build, grow, and scale their business. A lot of business owners will say, well, I need to get a loan immediately. Well, you wouldn't just lend money to your friend if you didn't know why they needed it. I tell every business owner, you need a business plan, you need financial projections, you need a banker. Because you have to start building a relationship with a banker so that they get comfortable with how you're going to build that business and so that they can eventually support you in different ways.
Makes sense. So visit the Chase Community Center on Crenshaw and Vernon. Meet a banker today. Tell them about your business. I'm Aisha Cairo in the community for KBLA with JP Morgan Chase.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio that's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. Curating the most compelling stories and delivering them straight to your ears. You're listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
Bringing us back. You were locked in to RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. So listen, we were talking the interview, the fireside chat that actress Nia Long and rapper Jeezy, he dropped the young, right? He's just Jeezy now. Had in reference to relationships, vulnerability, things of that nature. Yep, Urban Spinster said, okay, the internet. Yep, the internet. Listen, they drop sporadically. You can always tell a Sid song. I like her. They're not quite slow jams to me. It's like a mid-tempo vibe almost. It's cloud music. Yeah, cloud music. That's what I like to call it. It's definitely a vibe, like Plastic Off the Sofa on Beyonce's Renaissance album. Cloud music, you know? Sid produced that. That's why I'm bringing that up, y'all. So there it is. See, this is how you know when I have a good music moment, when I stump even Andy. When Andy's like, oh, really? I might have to go look that up. Okay. Huh? Producer Pen Game. I mean, yeah, and Pen Game, like, right? And I think she produces a little bit on there. I think she does both. So shout out to her. D Black 909 in the chat says, it is better to start fresh in a relationship than continue to build one that will crumble in the long run. But how do you, like, I mean, seriously, I know what my boundaries are and when I feel as though I've had my fill, but I think that that is a muscle that you develop over time, right? That is not something you may make a decision right off the bat, like, nope, no way, I'm not going for that. And really, it's something that you could have conceded on, or you could have given a little, or made an exception for, or talked through, you know? Pretty Brown Mimi says, I don't think cheating is a mistake. It's a choice. You don't accidentally have sex with someone, and it's up to your partner to decide if they forgive you or not. Of course it is. And of course it is a choice to have sex with someone else. But what I am speaking of is the slippery slope at times on how you get there. I'm not talking about your womanizers who are just out in the streets, whatever. I'm talking about those situations maybe when, you know, a couple is going through a rough patch and maybe there's an ear there to listen. I mean, we've certainly seen examples of things that could happen over the past couple of days. The Cameron conversation with Joe Smith's wife, even this conversation with Nia and Jeezy. I'm sure after they had this conversation, they felt a degree closer. Nia got him to open up, you know. They were talking about their youth, and Jeezy opened up and shared that you know, he got into the streets at an early age as far as his sexual activities. And Nia shared how when she was young, out here in LA, she was dating young drug dealers and things of that nature. You know, I had a friend that used to hang out with Nia in high school. That's an interesting story. So she's not, false. She did deal with some older men, but, and how it shaped them. So after you have a conversation like that and you feel closer to the person, naturally, you might accidentally end up in something that some may consider compromising. I'm not even talking about sex. Do you know what I'm saying? Just in a more vulnerable state. But I don't know. I guess it is up to you and your individual person, but that is what I am talking about when I say an oops thing. Like where you accidentally end up getting closer to a person just by sharing and exchanging information. It is a choice to cheat and to take that extra step, but I guess my question is, at any given point, obviously, it's between two people, but I don't know. I just feel like cheating isn't the most egregious thing that can happen in a relationship. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm not saying that you should be with a habitual cheater. I'm just saying that I don't think it's the worst thing that can ever happen in a relationship. That's just my personal opinion. We have JW from South Central on the line. JW, how are you this evening? Welcome in.
I'm doing well. I couldn't wait to make this comment. See, it's all about human nature. I don't care who the person is, if they're famous or well-known or just a typical average human being. And it shouldn't be a death sentence to your character or your background, especially if you're a person that's not known for cheating or something like that. But a person can be vulnerable because if you are with someone that pushes you away and you're not together anymore and then you're being apart from each other, you're not connected. So when you're not connected, you might identify with a friend at work or whoever the person may be. Like you say, they have an ear or a shoulder and they listen. And then, therefore, you are vulnerable because you make a mistake because it's an emotional type of experience. You follow my point? So it ain't like it's intentional, but then some people do things intentional. Just like if they want to get together and just have sex, it could be a business contract or it could be love or romance. In terms of agreement, some people get married just because, the fame aspect and they can make each other more popular. So you spoke about various different situations, and I just gave you various different reasons why people get together for different motives and intentions and, reasons and rationales. So it depends on the person and, the individual as well as whatever the motives are.
I mean, absolutely, 100%. And the thing is, your motives can change over time, too, depending upon what happens with external situations. I mean, it's all a process. So you just have to meet someone where they're at that given time and be honest and hope that you are receiving that same type of, support and energy exchange.
Yeah, let me make one more quick point.
Absolutely.
Just imagine when a person treats you like you're special, you're first, you're the main, issue, but now your priorities, our perspective, are not in order. So therefore, you used to treat me like I was important. I was the main person that met top of your priorities, but now I'm like second place, or I'm not even prioritized at all. I'm 101. I used to be number one. Now I'm 101. You follow my point?
I do. I mean, you hope that you grow together with people in a relationship, but sometimes, your priorities shift or the things that are important to you change over time.
Exactly. Values and all the above. So it's different perspectives and different rationales and different motives and different reasons. So that's the bottom. But it's all a human experience, period.
100%. I agree with you.
It's all human nature. Have a good one.
Have a good one, JW. Thank you for calling in. I'll tell you what, though, one thing that is for certain, Jeezy certainly seems to be manifesting this situation, because if you think about it, years ago, he had a song that had a lyric that said, "Ever see Nia Long? I'm getting at her." Well, manifestation is real. Speak it into the universe and you do not know what will come back to you. I'm a fan of that. Andy.
So you really think that Jeezy has a chance with Nia Long?
100%, yeah.
Just based
All
off of
day.
that interview?
Based off of they connected, they were very vulnerable in that interview, 1. 2, Jeezy is an attractive man that is age appropriate, right, and single. Nia Long is an attractive woman who is age appropriate and single. Yeah, why not? What's stopping them? I think that they could vibe a lot, especially as Jeezy has, the streets in his background, but he's a bit more refined. The rebrand has been incredible, right? Did you ever think Jeezy the Snowman would be talking vulnerabilities and having fireside chats? Did you think?
I will say, considering the man that he is, it was dope to see this level of vulnerability.
Right.
That little clip, I need to watch the whole thing, but just watching that clip, looking at his behavior, his decorum, his disposition, I just think coming from where he came from to sit down with Nia Long and to have a conversation and to be open like that, it speaks volumes. And I think, for Jeezy fans, especially, grown men, I think, it's something to follow. It's something to follow suit.
100%. I mean, that is what you call growth. And we talk a lot about men having safe spaces here to be vulnerable, to have these conversations, to be able to engage in that and, express themselves with someone that understands where they came from, but also understands where they're trying to go and how those two places intersect. So that is why 120% I could see Nia and Jeezy together. And I think it would be beautiful. I think that aesthetically they would look great. I think that what you see from this conversation is they have a lot in common and a lot that they could connect to on, that grown adult level. So those are my thoughts. If it doesn't happen, I hope they just have a great friendship because we all need those as well. When we come forward, more trending topics and headlines. You were locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580.
Infusing a sense of fun and entertainment in every episode. You're listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
I'm getting vaccinated with Prevnar 20.
So am I, because I'm at risk for pneumococcal pneumonia.
If you're 19 or older with chronic conditions like asthma, diabetes, COPD, or heart disease, or are 65 or older, you are at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about Prevnar 20, pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine. It can help protect you against pneumococcal pneumonia in just one dose. Even if you've already been vaccinated with other pneumonia vaccines, Prevnar 20 may help provide added protection. Prevnar 20 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. Side effects include pain and swelling at the injection site, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138 or visit Prevnar20.com.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Single Moms Planet is a nonprofit organization dedicated to uplifting under-resourced single mom business owners and working mothers nationwide. Single Moms Planet offers comprehensive programs of financial literacy, business development, mentorship, and entrepreneurial training. They provide education, accountability, and hope. Single Moms Planet was founded by model, TV personality, and producer Nefertari Plessy. Nefertiti felt firsthand the challenges that face single moms as she was raised by a working single mother. She learned that the most disadvantaged group in the United States are single mom families. According to the U.S. Census, 30% live under the poverty line. So she decided to do something about it, along with co-founder Cole Patterson. Their goal is to end the poverty cycle in single mother households through education, opportunity, and networking, providing family and child enrichment programs for under-resourced single-parent families. Single Moms Planet serves over 10,000 single moms and their children each year. Studies show that business development and financial literacy provide a positive environment for children and families, exposing them to new possibilities and opportunities. To attend one of their fun events, make a donation, or get more information, or if you need help as a single mom, please visit singlemomsplanet.org. That's singlemomsplanet.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Now back to more captivating conversation on RSVP with Jill Munroe.
You were locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. So we were talking Jeezy and Nia Long and how I wouldn't be mad if they decided, to take this newfound friendship a step further. But, they're fresh off of relationships, so might not be the time for that, but I just wouldn't mind. I wouldn't be mad at it. So in other news of black men being vulnerable, Soulja Boy got online the other day and was going off about J. Cole. And the irony was that he was going off on a topic that J. Cole really didn't say. It's when you forget to use your critical listening skills, when you just hear a part of something and you just start going in because of what you think that you're reacting to, but you're not. So it took Nicki Minaj to save the day to come in and explain to Soulja Boy that J. Cole, who basically said in an interview, he talked about the phenomenon of when Soulja Boy busted out, YouTube sensation, had everyone doing the dances and ringtones, and that everything switched up. Soulja thought J. Cole was dissing him, but he just basically was just saying, the evolution of music, things that happen, tentpole moments that changed the game and maybe changed his perspective on what hip hop is. So Soulja Boy did apologize like a man, did it on live, also did it in a written tweet. He said, "My bad, dog. Sorry for the confusion. Keep doing your thing. We're from two different worlds. I stand on what I stand on. It's hard coming from where I did. I've dealt with a lot of hate my whole career. So it was just messed up to think that it would come from you." So I think there's a lot of vulnerability in that statement because it says, one, I'm used to people talking mess, so I'm just ready with the clip. Bop, bop, bop. Soulja Boy's a great storyteller. But Andy?
How do they come from two different worlds?
They probably don't really, but in Soulja's mind, he probably thinks J. Cole is like, did Cole actually go to college? Did he graduate?
I have no idea.
But he talks about it a lot, so he might have at least attended, right? We know Soulja Boy, no such thing, right? So I think oftentimes when we're talking about stuff like that, and people say that to me, even if they both came from the hood, I'm putting that in quotes, I still think that if one guy is a little more educated, college boy, whatever, or he went off to work someplace, correct me if I'm wrong, back in the day or on the movies, they would give the guy, the people that escaped the circumstance a hard time. And we've seen it at points in our life, but is it a real thing? I think that when he says we're from two different worlds, generally that's the type of thing I think that people are talking about when they come from similar circumstances, similar backgrounds, but lead very different lives. Maybe?
No, I get it. I understand it. I just feel like, they both come from the inner city, both from the South, I just think, J. Cole took a more intellectual approach to the game while, Soulja Boy is just having fun and being ratchet.
And I think, I mean, there's an age difference when they entered in. I do think, as small as this might be, I do think having at least some college experience probably changes your perspective at least a little bit, because you're seeing outside of your neighborhood, outside of the friends that you maybe have come up with. So, from that perspective, just like when you take on a career in hip hop and all of a sudden you're touring around the world. So, how can somebody like Wayne from Magnolia Projects end up a rock star skater? I think it's just exposure. And I also think Soulja's a little sensitive and he's used to nobody taking him seriously. But you got to think about it. When did Superman drop? 2007?
Oh, 07.
So, I mean, we're almost 20 years in at this point. That's a long time. A lot has happened. The landscape of hip hop have changed. Think about the fact he changed hip hop, but it's such a blip and nobody respects what he brought to the game at that time period. So, although I think Soulja's extra and a lot, I do give him the runway a bit that people don't respect him at all. They talk about the simplicity of his rhymes or whatever. But I think that as hip hop has grown and expanded, culture shifting movements have to be taken into account when you're talking about hip hop in general and not just, the basics of hip hop, the record and the DJ and the song, etc. So that's just my thoughts. Pretty Brown Mimi in the chat, going back to our Jeezy conversation, says, Jeezy does not have a chance with Nia Long. Hasn't Jeezy mostly dated, married outside of our community? I'm just saying.
She hating.
Those are two different things that you're saying there, Mimi, because you said he doesn't have a shot, but then you reverted back to what he has sought out. I know he has, obviously, his ex-wife is outside of the black community. I think the woman that he was engaged to before, I believe she was black, maybe biracial, but not biracial white. Uncertain about that. But I think too, and I hate to be like this, we're talking about Nia Long, right? We aren't talking about Nia Dupree down the block, and not like that. Nia Dupree could have action too, but I mean, being realistic, right? A woman that you probably grew up idolizing, you and your friends had, I just talked about, he was dropping Nia Long lyrics in his song saying if he ever saw Nia, he was going to get at her. As callous as this may sound to some, let's say a guy is on that. I don't date black women. I'm not messing with black women. Those aren't my preference. Will a celebrity black woman kind of jump over that hurdle and not be a part of that? Maybe. If it's someone that they've always wanted to be a part of, they're attractive enough. Certainly is possible. Listen, when we come forward the 11th hour, boy, we have a lot of topics, a lot of relationship topics. I know you guys like that. So we're going to get into it. We're going to get into this breakup of Lori Harvey and Damson Idris. We're going to talk about Royce Reed and basketball wives and Shaq spitting game at her and his response. We're going to talk about Tim Anderson of the Chicago White Sox, formerly, and what's going on with him. All of that and more on the other side. You are locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580.